Namaste, salam alaikum.
Hello everyone and namaste.
Namaste.
Salam alaikum, Minati.
Walaikum salam.
Om Namo Shivaya. So we have Manasi. Hello, Manasi. Good afternoon, Professor.
Good afternoon, sir.
Professor Chatukulam is co-present.
Professor Chatukulam will be attending. He has some health issues.
Okay. So then we would wait for his arrival, and we can begin now with your co-presence.
So first, Vidit Mondi ma'am can start in that case.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you so much, dear and respected friends. As you know, today is Labor Day. So we are going to start today's session with an invocation of a song dedicated to all the workers of the world. So let me just share the screen.
हम जिगर पहाड़ कचीरे जुर्रत की हम तस्वीरें औलाद को मोम बना दे सहरा का दिल दहला दे हम जिगर पहाड़ कचीरे जुर्रत की हम तस्वीरें औलाद को मोम बना दे सहरा का दिल दहला दे हाथों पर है जो छाले थम गए हैं हिम्मत वाले हम देश की ताकत का मजबूत गरूर हम मजदूर हम मजदूर हम मजदूर हम मजदूर कोई काम नहीं कोई नाम नहीं जो है मजदूर से खाली जो है मजदूर से खाली हर रंग में है हर संग में है मजदूर के दिल की लाली मजदूर के दिल की लाली हम कंकर जोड़े ताजमहल बन जाए हम बीज को छूले तो जंगल बन जाए सर ऊंचा तन मन थकन से चूरा चूर हम मजदूर हम मजदूर हम मजदूर हम मजदूर घर गलियां कूचे बाजार इन हाथों के है शाकार इन हाथों में हो आजाद तो आसमान तक बन जाए दीवार हम लोग जमीन पर चांद सितारे ले आए हम सहराओं में फूल नजारे ले आए और अपनी झोली खाली दिल मजबूर हम मजदूर हम मजदूर हम मजदूर हम मजदूर हम जिगर पहाड़ कचीरे जुर्रत की हम तस्वीरें औलाद को मोम बना दे सहरा का दिल दहला दे हाथों पे है जो छाले तमगे हैं हिम्मत वाले हम देश की ताकत का मजबूत गरूर हम मजदूर हम मजदूर हम मजदूर हम मजदूर
Thank you so much, dear and respected friend. Thank you so much for your kind I, Randhir Kumar Gautam, on behalf of Vishwaneedam Center for Asian Blossoming, Pondicherry and Chennai, welcome you to today's Swadhyay Sahachakra dialogue. This dialogue is being co-nurtured by Sri Sri Ravi Shankar University, Qatar, and Center for Rural Management. Welcome. Topic of today's dialogue is decentralization, local democracy, and women's empowerment, and the calling of alternative centers and in Odisha. As you know, today is an important day of history. Today is Labor Day. Today is a way to reflect awareness regarding the rights of the working class.
Hello, Randhir. It seems you are not audible. Hello, Minati. You can call Randhir and please tell that he is not audible.
You are able to hear?
Sorry, you can hear me?
I can hear you, but you are able to hear Randir?
No, he is not audible.
Okay.
Therefore, you call him, because if I call, my network would be over.
Yeah, I'll call him.
Hello, Asha. Namaste.
Hello.
Namaste. Salam alaikum.
Hello.
Hello. Because of Ramadan, we say Salam alaikum and Om Namo Shivaya. Lovely to see you. The spirit of Kashmir. Lovely. Okay, dear friends, it seems that Randhir is taking some time. Minati, could you speak with him?
Your voice is too soft.
Okay, it would come. Minati, could you speak?
No, I could not speak to him.
Okay.
He did not take the call.
Yes. I'm sorry because of some internet disruption.
Okay, sure.
I lost the internet connectivity.
Please come. Yeah.
Yes. So, dear and respected friend, thank you so much for your kind participation. And we congratulate all of you because today we are going to have our first Swadhyay Sahachakra birth anniversary. We have
Not
1 year.
audible. Not audible. It's too soft, the voice. I don't know, maybe it
Hello?
is my phone, but
Yes, but we can hear. So let us try our best.
Yes.
Sorry
Yes.
about it.
Yes. So I welcome our respected panelists and all our respected friends, viewers, both on Facebook platform and Zoom platform. Today I think, am I audible?
Yes, a little.
Yes. I'm sorry. Actually,
Yes, no, you are audible, Randy. You are
Okay.
audible. Yes.
Okay.
So let us, be
Yes.
in the.
Hello.
Please go ahead, Randy, please. Yeah, you are audible. Please
Yes,
go ahead.
yes. So I'm facing network issue. So I invite all our respected participant and panelists. So I hand over to Professor Anand Giri, moderator of today's session, to kindly uh, invite respected panelists. So Professor Giri, over to you.
Thank you. And a warm welcome to all friends, and especially to Professor Vidyut Mohanty and Professor Jose Chatukulam, Manashi, and all friends co-present, Asa, Mira, Gyan, Luigi. And this is a very important day today. This is just before Eid, and we are at the last stage of Ramadan. And this day of fasting also, that how we labor. And when we labor, today is also the Labor Day. And as we know in our history, both men and women, they have worked together, and many times the burden of labor has been much more on women. But this whole Labor Day is also a day for remembering that the dignity of labor, how we would have to link labor to love and learning together. And it is in that process, labor and leisure, we would have to cultivate together. And therefore understand both the physical, mental, as well as the spiritual dimension of labor. That how do we labor in a way, for example, fasting and feasting together, so that we understand the dignity of labor as well as the sacredness of labor. Today, May 1, 2022, also is a humble reminder to our circle that 2 years ago in 2020, we assembled together, and from a little seed, now Sadhya Sahachakra is blossoming with love, care, and blessings of nature and divine. Now, on this day today, on this Labor Day, so we are nurturing this conversation on decentralization, local democracy, and women's empowerment, Kerala, Odisha, and alternative planetary futures. This conversation is part of an effort of some of us, like Professor Josh Chatukulam with Center for Rural Management, our friends Manasi and others are co-present. I visited the center in March, and we had a few days of lovely learning together. And Vishwaneedam Center for Asian Blossoming and Sri Sri University. And hopefully now we would also collaborate with Odisha Gaveshana Chakra to find ways of learning together from very interesting efforts in these fields, that is decentralization, local democracy, and women's empowerment in Kerala and Odisha. As it happens, most of our scholarship today is still so isolated. For example, so much thing has happened in Kerala, and some things are happening in Odisha, but these are rarely brought into conversation so that we can learn together. On this day, Labor Day, we must also learn together. Now let us come to, I would just take a few minutes to warm up the issues that are at hand before inviting Professor Vidyut Mohanty, who has been a very deeply engaged scholar and activist in this field for almost last 40 years. She has worked on decentralization, Panchayat Raj, women's questions with Institute of Social Sciences, has written about it, and I request you to kindly unmute Asaji. Yes. So now when we talk about decentralization, now the very discourse of decentralization is a helpless footnote to the architecture of centralization. So therefore, conceptually and theoretically, the very language of decentralization is already imprisoned with an a priori notion of the primacy of the center. So today, when we talk of decentralized, and I do not think that the decentralization and Panchayat Raj discourse in India has really interrogated this fundamental difficulty that decentralization is a footnote to the logic of centralization. So it is in this context, given the limitations of the present, that does not mean that we should not theorize differently. How can we think about our locality in a way beyond the language of centralization and decentralization? And it is in that spirit we need to think about deconstructing decentralization and reconstructing in ways in which what we call as decentralized places are become places of multiple centers. And these multiple centers, like let thousand flowers bloom, let our multiple localities and centers become centers. And they are centers of autonomy, creativity, political autonomy. So this is my first submission. And here we can learn a lot from other parts of the world. For example, in South America, the way the grassroots community mobilization is happening, there the empowerment is happening in a way which is not decentralization as it is happening in India. These communities are coming together and they're creating political and spiritual power, including knowledge power. Then about democracy, we know this very language of local democracy also is an adjunct to the available language of democracy, which is mainly electoral democracy. Though at the panchayat level, we had thought that we would introduce a partyless kind of election, but in reality, it suffers from all the challenges. So it is in this context, how do we have local democracy in a way, with all our limitations, how do we link local democracy to what can be called as earth democracy? That means our local democracy is really resonating with the soil. And in this context, in Kerala, the local resource planning that is happening, and that local resource planning becoming a contribution to local planning. And all these are the way to link this would be to link local democracy to earth democracy. And when we talk about earth democracy, then for example, the locality does not consist of human beings. Our natural sustenance, for example, river, trees, that how do we have local democracy and regional democracy, national democracy, and transnational democracy with the dignity of the air, water, and this is a challenge. So a new kind of conceptualization of democracy and practice of democracy. Then coming to women's empowerment, much has been written about it, and the challenge for women's empowerment in a patriarchal society, in an patriarchal state, it is to be accepted. We have many ways to go, many roads to travel. At the same time, the very discourse of empowerment, like the discourse of decentralization, also must be open to some fundamental critique. Professor Manoranjan Mahanti is not co-present at this moment, but almost 20 years ago, he wrote a very important article on critique of the notion of empowerment, and how he argues that how the discourse of empowerment, again, like decentralization, it is a one-sided discourse, mainly from World Bank and others, but it really does not refer to the kind of the process of creation of power from below. And so this is a very important challenge, that when we talk about empowerment, how do we create processes in which it is not just a benevolent process of giving of power, but a generation of power. And not only power, as we know in political science and sociology, in modern practice of politics, power as domination of others. As Max Weber say, what is power? Power is the ability to carry out one's will against the will of the other. Now, this is not the kind of power that we need. especially in women's group, whether it is Kutumbasri or Stri Shakti, the idea of the power is a collaborative power. And that kind of a collaborative power, as Spinoza spoke to us almost more than around 300 years ago, he talks it constitutive power. Similarly, Hannah Arendt, the great political visionary, activist, and theorist, she talks about a way of having power in which having power is to work in concert with each other. And I would like to say that having power is to dance together in which we bring our own possibility, mutual possibility, and contribute to realizing the evolutionary flourishing of self, society, and the world. Therefore, women's empowerment also, how do we begin with women's empowerment in a way in which it becomes a co-creative power, which involves men, women, and transformation of patriarchy and creation of a new society. And it is in this context, the initiatives of Kutumbasri in Kerala and Stri Shakti in Odisha, we can think together. One thing to note about it, and I came to realize when I was visiting Kerala in March, is that Kutumbasri is an initiative of the state. And similarly, Stri Shakti is also an initiative of the state. And therefore, we have to understand them in the context of the fact that they are state-initiated initiatives. And therefore, they have some fundamental limitations. They have some possibilities, but this, how do we engage with initiatives which are state-initiated, and to begin with state initiative and then to begin with as a possibility to transcend state in some ways and make it a space for civil society, our own self-initiative, so that will be challenged. The second thing is that Kutumbasri and Stri Shakti, and in Kerala, Kutumbasri is engaged in many more activities than Stri Shakti. It seems that in Odisha, women's groups are mainly confined to, this microfinance and self-help group. And when I visited some friends in Chilika many years ago, more than 10 years ago, and this thought came to me that, and when I also visited Dhenkanal, that the self-help group are meeting, and it is mainly confined to giving loan and taking account of it. Think of what an impoverished way of group organization. There is a place people are coming, and there is no activity of study and learning, for example. Now, in terms of pedagogy, how do we learn? And Paulo Freire has given us a way of learning, political literacy, cultural literacy. Chittavai Chittaranjan Das also, I suggested that how these women's self-help group must be linked to, there must be learning groups. And I think a lot has to be done in that field, even policy-wise. Secondly, that also the question of aesthetics, that how when women come together in learning and creating art, painting, dance, music, this whole kind of cultural creation, story writing, for example. Professor Mohanty is a heart-touching story writer. Why can't we link the process of women's group formation to this kind of creativity? And this creativity also can overflow, for example, to families. And when a woman start writing story, and her children also get inspired, So linking both Kutumbasri and Stri Shakti to the challenge of creativity and education, and thus on this Labor Day, to link to processes of love, labor, and learning. And finally, and one important challenge is the challenge of climate, not only climate change, but climate collapse. I remember MP Parameswaran has a very important essay on the field more than 10 years ago, in which he is saying that how he engaged with panchayats to have ecological sustainability plan. And we need to learn more about this, what is happening in Kerala, in Odisha. But my submission is that decentralization, alternative centralization, local democracy, earth democracy, women's empowerment, and this kind of constitutive power need to be linked to climate care movement. And here MP Parameswaran uses a word called Sangha Sapna, means collective dreaming. So how our processes of localization, democracy, decentralization become ways of dream, and when we collaborative dreaming about alternative planetary future with wherever we are in our locations, but these locations are also places of alternative realities and possibilities, and with our location on this Labor Day, we can really build and rebuild our world in a different way. We can uphold our world and regenerate our Mother Earth. So with this submission, now I invite Professor Vidyut Mohanty, please, to kindly enrich us with her presentation. Please unmute yourself, madam. आपन को एटा हाँ एबे नहीं अनम्यूटेड हे जाई चंती अनम्यूट करन
सुबिला
हाँ सब ठीक
अच्छा today is a very auspicious day. One is Labor Day and the other is Akshaya Tritiya Day. You know, Labor Day, you saw some videos. It was really appropriate to show those videos, what kind of hardship the laborers faced. And Akshaya Tritiya is a very auspicious day in Odisha. On this day, the farmers, you know, take the plow to go to the field and, you know, and till the land. And the women take major role in sending the farmers to till the land. You know, there are many rituals. I'm not going to that. So I'll start my program. You know what happens when I get excited? Sometimes I cut. So you have to bear with me if I, you know, pause or I mean cut. Please bear with me. Now I'm happy. I'm just telling you, I'm happy that on the May Day and Akshaya Tritiya Day, Professor Jyoth Sathukulam and Ananta have invited me to join this Odisha Kerala initiative on women's empowerment through Panchayati Raj. That is my forte. Stree Shakti of Odisha and Kutumbasri of Kerala can indeed do a lot together. No doubt, Kutumbasri is much older and has many legacies at work today. Odisha, the land of Lakshmi the Rebel, has a great popular tradition and women's labor and dignity. Stree Shakti, not just the mission, but the phenomenon can take advantage of such legacies from all over India. Now, coming to my subject, let me start from the chapter which I wrote in Professor Jyoth Sathukulam's recent book. It was about what women did during COVID at Panchayat level. They tackled two challenges. One, facing serious health situation. Second, handling economic hardship. You know what gave them the strength? You can call it their natural practice of ecological economy. They just used local natural resources, local knowledge, local culture, and local resource persons to create livelihood opportunities of for return migrants and tried to save them from the COVID. Now, I must tell you what I did. We have conducted many surveys in different parts of India, and I will tell you some of the positive studies. For example, in Uttar Pradesh, there's a Dubudi Panchayat. It is the tribal region panchayat. What these tribal women did, along with the women sarpanch of tribal, along with the women sarpanch who is the Adivasi, all the other women members, they saw that the panchayat is facing lot of water problems. Now what they did, all of them, the panchayat sarpanch called a meeting and convened all the villagers. They sat down and saw during the rainy season how the water is coming from the jungle. So what they did, they just rerouted that water from jungle, and now they put it in the ponds. There are, it says that I was reading Panchayat Raj update Hindi, and it is all mentioned there, and it is a true story. So for each 7 households, there is a pond. Altogether, there were 21 ponds. And in this pond, what the villagers have, these women have done, they reroute, they put some check dams. So as a result, when the rain comes, so the water just collects and get it, and the ponds get filled up. And then what they did, they just started. There were about 20 ponds, and in 20 ponds, so they're rearing fish. And to do that, they taught the youth how to rear the fish. Now the panchayat has given them the leads, and the youth are engaged in fish rearing. And then what has happened? They did not go to outside to sell their fish. They have a pickup van which takes them outside and gets money. And as a result, whatever money comes, it is distributed among the villagers equally, so that not a single family of that Dubudi Gaon is below poverty line. It's a win-win situation for them. And it is only the tribal women who could do this. And because the ponds are full, they are growing many types of vegetables, then fruit, haldi, and haldi. What they have done, just to process the haldi, they have set up a machine, haldi processing machine, and they're packaging it. Self-help group is doing along with the women sarpanch at the initiative of women sarpanch. And then, the pickup van takes up to different places and brings money, and it is distributed. So not a single person is in below poverty line. That is the success story of Uttar Pradesh. Now in Goa, let me tell you about Haryana, which is a land of wheat cultivation area. Even there, what they have done, the serpents saw that some, gundas have encroached the public land. So what the serpent did, first she called the Gram Sabha, and then they asked this person to vacate the land, because all the villagers put pressures on each person, he had to vacate. Now they've started mini and medium scale industries, and they have given lease to the concerned department. So what will happen? When they produce something and sell it, now the money, whatever gain they achieve, it will come to the panchayat, again they will distribute. Even in Haryana. Now I will come to Bihar. Bihar, what has done, the woman serpent saw that many people are drinking liquor. So she made the liquor drinking illegal. She said, one who will drink liquor, she or he has to give 5,000 rupees per head. So, and their liquor policy has been successful, and that Nitish Kumar has banned this liquor drinking. Now in Rajasthan, what has happened? It was, what happened again, the Sarpanch and Gram Sabha, they came together and saw that women are making, putting gungat, veil. So then they said, if you put gungat in the public place, you'll be fined. And then, so now they're trying to abolish the veil system. And so I think if nobody puts the veil, then, everybody will be, they will gain. So similarly, I'll also come to Goa. In Goa, what happened that it's again a woman serpent. She saw that somebody has encroached the land, but they wanted to make it a heritage place. So, and that heritage, so how to do it? So that this person had built a huge mansion. So they said, you must demolish it. If you don't demolish, then we will demolish it. So, but he didn't listen. Then finally they had to demolish it, and then now they have a heritage place. Actually, how women coming together are creating, a lot of, they are all grassroots workers, and they are trying to save the migrants from COVID. How they are doing it. It is amazing. The lockdown just happened without giving them warning. So, and migrants didn't know what to do. They just came, and the serpents risked their lives and looked after the migrants and to try to save the COVID patients. And what has happened? I talked to Nandini Panda, who is a serpent in Ujanga. And then she said, Madam, I am having fever, but still I'm trying to give migrants succor, whatever they need. They are giving them some minimum support, and then what happens? They also are giving them toilets for different women migrants, separate men migrants, separate. So all these things and then what happens? Women in the family have two burdens: their health, and they are the caretaker, and also they have to seek for livelihood. So even there, they have succeeded. Now I must tell you very interesting thing. When lockdown happened in Koraput, the government started more bagicha, my garden. So again the serpents and the Gram Sabha people, they started little garden, and then started growing many types of fruits. Then fruits, then grains, and then and they're giving. Of course, the self-help group is also involved. They take this food, nutritious food to the school, As a result, the the children are not malnourished. So yet they are having lots of problems. You know what happened as soon as the COVID came? Both Navin Patnaik and Modi said that you are the chief minister. They announced that you are the chief minister. But chief minister what? They did not give personnel. They did not give three Fs: function, finance, and function, functionaries, and three things, three Fs, which they said. But still, they just checked the local resources and then utilize them, and then try to save the situation. So this is what women at the grassroots level are doing, not depending on the government. Now I must tell you, you know what? Ananta, you are right. It's a patriarchal structure, but women have way to tackle this kind of problems. They are not at all timid. They're not at all timid. And I am a very positive thinker. I think the coming century will be the century of women. This is what I'm thinking. And then I'll tell you many other stories, but I must cut short and wait for others. If you have any queries, I will take and try to give whatever answers I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Mohanty, for your deeply heart-touching sharing of thoughts, especially this realization that the coming century will be women's century, and therefore it would be really human century, a nurturing century. It is the century of our Mother Earth. So thank you. We'll have opportunity to discuss with you after Professor Chatukulam's presentation.
Yeah.
So
I'll just mute myself.
yes, please. So now Professor Chatukulam, please.
Mansi, sharing some points. Is it okay?
Yes, Manasi.
Yeah. So as Vidit Mohan was talking about this pandemic context,
and you can kindly open your video if possible. We would just like to greet you.
Due to connectivity, I am unable to.
Okay, sure. Please, Manasi and Hasina Khan, are you from Center for Rural Management? Please make the presentation.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, please.
Yeah, so I'll be just sharing which sir asked me to share. So first one is like decentralized management of pandemic by local governments was a major contributing factor when it comes to effectively containing the pandemic. Be it Odisha or Kerala, the local governments have like offered exemplary models. So evidence from Kerala suggests that states' long-term investment in democratic local government and arrangements for incorporating women within grassroots state functions, especially through the Kudumbasri program, has built a high degree of public trust and cooperation with state actors, while local authorities embrace an ethic of care in the implementation of state responses. In the case of Kerala in particular, the robust long-term support for local governments and the empowered local governments has made these institutions into a formidable force for containing the pandemic. Also, Kerala has a history of very strong state support for panchayats and the People's Plan campaign in 1996 for decentralized planning, which is one of the most ambitious efforts to build local institutions of participatory democratic governance, has also played a crucial role in containing the pandemic. Also, Odisha has also an extensive history of building decentralization, and during the pandemic they have also offered like models like there was a am I audible?
You are audible, Manasi, please.
Oh, okay. So during the first wave of the pandemic, that's in April 2020, Odisha announced that. Sir, am I audible?
You are audible, Manasi. Kindly go ahead.
Yeah. So in Odisha, in April 2020, that is during the first wave of the pandemic, the state government announced there that they will devolve the power of district collectors to sarpanchas to contain the pandemic. So it was hailed as a very big step in terms of empowering panchayat functionaries. So one of the crucial things the pandemic has taught us is that the effective governance in collaboration with PRIs and community-based response strategy is very much crucial when it comes to containing any pandemic or like the present one. Regarding the women empowerment, the Kudumbasri program in Kerala and the Mission Shakti program in Odisha holds out a huge promise, and maybe a convergence between them would be a better option. And that's also. Thank you.
Thank you, Nandri, Manasi, and regards to Professor Chatukula. So,
thank you.
So we are also enriched by the co-presence of Dr. Vishwaneedam Mohanty from Sri Sri University. So we have discussed this with Dr. Mohanty. So now I invite Dr. Mohanty to kindly share her thought. Dr. Vijayalakshmi Mohanty, please, you kindly unmute and also you can kindly show your video and please welcome. Dr. Vijayalakshmi Mohanty. Okay, she had sent me a message. We will hear her a little later. So now let us have some conversations, please. We have Professor Bhagyasri Wakahare with us. Professor Bhagyasri. Then we have Professor Grigori. Professor Grigori, please. Professor Grigori is a thoughtful anthropologist with us. Okay. Then we have Professor Dr. Fakir Mohan Nahat from Chandigarh University. Professor Nahat, please. Please unmute yourself.
Namaskar to all participants and Professor Giri and all other eminent dignitaries present over here. And I was listening to Madam Vidyut Mohanty and listening to the previous speaker. For the first time, I am joining with you in your webinar. thank you very much for this wonderful arrangement and the topic that you have chosen for the discussion. So today I am a pure listener and a spectator, you can say. So thank you for giving me the chance to be part of this webinar. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And one thing to note about Professor Nahar, and which creates a creative link between Professor Mohanty, is that Professor Nahak is also a heart-touching story writer. And during the pandemic, he composed very beautiful short stories. And that relates to the link between Panchayati Raj, for example, and storytelling and story writing. That's
I have been writing a column since last 1.5 years, and that column in my language, in Odia, and that is a series on Gaan Kotha. That means the stories from the village. Basically, people even I have written 2-3 stories regarding the problems that are faced by the migrant laborers from villages, those who are living Odisha and working in different parts of the country, and what kind of problem they have faced when their old parents are staying in the state and they are living in other parts of the country, and how they face the problem. And finally, when they decided to go back home, what was the situation we all know. And being a journalist, I have been writing non-fiction only. There is, I mean, all my stories, only characters' names have changed, nothing else, just to make it as a story. But the situations is almost common in every village, and I've taken all those stories as it happened there, and all are non-fiction stories. Thank you very much, Professor Giri, for.
Thank you. And I think one related issue which we can build up later is the whole question of journalism and communication and Panchayati Raj. Now, we know about the work of the Sainath and rural reporting,
Yes.
but also, can we think of this alternative power, the way the stories that Professor Mohanty has told us, like in Dubudi and Kujang. Now we also need, so how every panchayat, the locality also can be equipped, to report. And so therefore there is the possibility of a creative partnership. For example, schools of journalism like Professor Nahak is heading at Chandigarh University, and Panchayat Raj institutions and local people. This is just a thought which we can take it up later. So now I invite friends who would like to ask a question to put it in the chat box. But as we go along, let me invite these friends to enrich us, and I would request a few friends to begin with. Professor Meera Chakrabarti, then Gyan Luigi, and then Minati and Randhir. These 4 friends kindly do take 1 or 2 minutes, and then other friends, those who would like to speak, do mention it in the chat box or raise your hand. So Professor Meera Chakrabarti, please. Professor Meera Chakrabarti, she's taking a little time. Then Gyan Luigi, please.
Yes, I thank you very much. I hope I am audible because I have some difficulties in my connection. Thank you very much. It was really very interesting. Well, I was thinking about a subject which perhaps is not so immediately connected, but some of the observations let me think at some of, for instance, of Amartya Sen's remarks, interpretations of the role of the state, of the government, within the question of the promotion of rights, economical rights, social rights, civil rights, and of course also of women's rights specifically. because I see, and I think I have the impression that Sen many times criticized the mentality of the conception of the state, of the government, and of the legislation in general as something which should not mix into the question of economics and let the economics go following supposed natural laws, so to speak. And Sen criticizes this mentality and saves a role for the government, for the legislation, and for the state in general. For instance, in case of famines, he says it's not true that famines are so a natural phenomenon, they are a social phenomenon. That is, all those who say it is a natural phenomenon and there is nothing to do actually wants to interpret something as in order to avoid the precise responsibilities which governments have when famines or similar catastrophes happen in a country. And I think that the teaching of Sen about the word of labor in general, but also the word of the dimension of responsibility of government is always to be held before our eyes. That is, many times, at least as far as my experience is regarded, I either hear or watch or listen to contributions in on the TV, television, or anyway in the political scene, in which it is said there is nothing to do, there is no other solution, and we cannot do anything against this phenomenon because it is a natural phenomenon. And now we can, I think, learn from Sen's interpretation of famines applied to the general interpretation of the social phenomena, that actually, in many cases, these phenomena are first of all, are not a natural phenomenon, but are a social phenomenon, which precise causes, responsibilities, and also antidotes which we can apply against these phenomena. And the second is, we should be careful and pay attention to all the attempts at masking something as a phenomenon against which we cannot do anything, because it is very often not so. We can do something. We can do much, and in many cases we can do actually very, very much. And so also regards the word of labor. Today is the World Labor Day. And I think also in this case, far too many times in Europe, for instance, in the European Union, it is said, well, let's go the economy as it should go, following the ways, the laws of economy, as though these laws were given, naturally given once for all. And even though there would not be another, for instance, other alternatives way of behaving in the economical politics. So I thank you very much. Thank you. It was very, very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the implication for Gyanluigi is bringing up Amartya Sen. Of course, Professor Vidyut Mahanti has worked on famine also. For example, how panchayats in local institutions, how do they address challenges like famine? But famine is a negative challenge, but also much more, the kind of positive challenges that we have. It is not just famine, but what we have to do, and in what way we can link the issue of capability, and how do we rethink capability. And that capability with both Kutumbasri and Stri Shakti, if they are mainly state-initiated institutions, then it have some kind of capability. But beginning with state-initiated capability, how do we deepen and expand it? and also how do we link capability with creativity. So now, Professor Meera Chakrabarti. Okay, she's taking some time. Now, Minati, please.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, Minati.
Yeah,
Yes,
network
Meera.
is so much disturbed here because it's raining here. So there's a lot of disturbance in the network. I had met Dr. Mohanty in the last webinar also, and I was telling her that we have taken care of women in the panchayat government, in the local self-government. As a member of the Karnataka State Women's Commission. What I want to add here is that this Kutumba Shri or whatever self-help groups are there, they are okay for that is mainly poverty alleviation schemes, and that goes for the whole of the family, and there are several tiers to that. There are the local group, and then from there you go to another kind of what is it called, background to societies. So the ADS, like Area Development Society, etc. So these are okay, fine. And I have been all along been in the women's movement. But what I feel that like the grassroots movements and women movements have contributed. Mind you, these changes are not there that government has all the governments by themselves have taken it. It is because women have been struggling at the grassroots, and women's movement have been kind of facilitating this. That these are the results. While there have been some achievements, but what I see is that there are counter reactions also has been very fierce. There are still many obstacles to women's empowerment because we witness relentless rapes, acid attacks, stalking, killing, and other forms of violence against women. And women are fearing that I can't quite agree with Dr. Mohanty that next century would be women's century. Women are fearing that what will be the next phase that would turn violent, because women's choice are not are continuously being questioned. And if that is so, if women's inequality is a historical
Shall I answer now? Or we take all the questions and then I answer? What do you suggest?
We will just have another one
round
or
of, yeah, no problem.
And then
no problem.
I think Professor Chakrabarti's network has become slightly. Now I invite Minati, please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very delighted to listen to Dr. Vidyut Mohanty about this topic. I have listened to her before in Sadhya Chakra Dialogue and some other things once or twice. It was a real pleasure to listen to her. So I just have some few observations. I will just say, when Anantabhai was having the presentation, he talked about in one point the transformation of patriarchy. I feel it has happened only in the paper level. It has not really happened in the grassroots level. Example, there are seats for the women contestants who really contest in their name and they go voting and everything happens. But who handles the power, who takes all the decision is the male member of that family. Whether it could be a husband or a son or some relative brother, like that. So the transformation of a patriarchy should happen in the real sense, not only the namesake. That is one observation. And the second thing is, today I was just reading a newspaper there was a article that the Jharkhand women are not allowed to contest the elections. Those women who are actually have already contested or won in the 2015 election or some other election, for no valid reason their applications were cancelled. And that later on they found that that was like some party politics, and is there also is patriarchy is involved. So this is the real condition of our society, where everything is on the paper, and even though the change is happening, positive change, it is very little. We need little more changes of this thing. So, Madam was telling, Vidut Madam was telling about the women empowerment of different states. And about Odisha, if it is said, means whatever I have observed little closely, Mission Shakti has really empowered so many women. Now they are able to take decision on their own because of that, the monetary independence. So still, as Miramam was telling, still there is a long way to go. All this violence, all these implications, and the social, what you say, now no, it is this political violence was so much. Many places you will find, apart from physical violence, there was verbal violence. People will tell so many things. People will make, there is no respect for women, the way they talk. So there are many things involved in this. So it was nice listening to everything. And as such today, I don't have any question. If
yes, Minati, you can put your video on, so Professor Mahanti can see you. Yes, and Minati is also a story writer. So Professor Vidut Mahanti is also a very creative story writer. And again, the whole challenge of creativity. So thank you. Now, Randhir, please.
Yes, thank you, sir. And I'm really mesmerized by the presentation of Dr. Viduti ma'am. When we think about democracy, we are told that all social manifestations like authority, inequality, particularly gender inequality, hierarchy require a kind of democracy as the political solution. But what we are witnessing in India is a kind of, you can see, concentration of power, economic power, political power in a fewer and fewer hands day by day. So all those conceptions, which was conceived by like Rajni Kothari and D.L. Seth, that this there is a challenge of party system. So the grassroots democracy can help us in empowering the society. So of course, panchayati election have a kind of revolutionized the political life, particularly rural women, and have brought about a kind of silent revolution in rural India. She mentioned a kind of voice of the women in Bihar. But what we are witnessing, that we can't see the transmission of a kind of local leadership into a state leadership. We have 73, 74 amendment, and Bihar, accepted 50% reservation. But we can't see women leadership in a state level. So there is a challenge. So I just want to know what are the constraints of challenge, and we have whole silence of 33 reservation in parliament also. So of course there is a lack of political will, but of course we can see a significant contribution of women leadership during pandemic. but we can't see the leadership, emerging leadership in mainstream politics, be it a state level or national level. So if you can help us to find the constraint of movement, then that would be nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Randir. And we'll just have one question if possible. And then after that, we have time for another round. I see many friends here, Susuma Panda, Dr. Uday Ram Singh. So I request you, Dr. Sapna Gehlot, Hasin Khan. So now we have Sandhya Appa. Would you like to share some thought? You can speak in Odia, I'll translate. Sandhya Appa. Okay, she's taking some time. Now, Professor Mahanti, please. Professor Vidyut Mahanti.
So have I unmuted?
Yes, you are already unmuted. Please.
Okay. I am really delighted to see many familiar faces. But I work with Institute of Social Sciences, and there the chairperson of that institute says, because of women's reservation, a silent revolution has taken place. Indeed, I am an optimist. I'll tell you just one story, and that will answer your question. Of course, somebody asked me what are the constraints they are facing. Of course, they are facing the structural constant, patriarchal structure, constant, all this. Now, if you read Prem Chaudhary, how to unveil that how did the Haryana women unveil their, their, veil. They did not put any veil, and they have not to, negotiate and, just try to get things done. There are many stories which we have documented, and we have films also. So, Daughters of 73rd Amendment, all these stories, I think many of you have, saw that, seen that. I'll just tell you one story. Not story, it is a real fact. There is a, in Maharashtra, there is a particular panchayat. What happened when the pandemic took place and they faced famine? Many parents, many children, many girl children became orphan. So what did the panchayat do? Panchayat adopted those, the children and put some amount of money in the post office. And then after, when they achieved 12, 16 years, so that money was withdrawn and was distributed among them. Now this orphan also thinks that when another set of natural disaster come, they will do the same thing. So I think women face a lot of concerns, but they know they're not. As I say, that ecological economy that comes handy here. Now, what do I mean by ecological economy? Because women possess local knowledge, and they use local resources, as I put it, and then they try to maintain the ecology and nature. And that's how they provide the employment opportunities to the migrants and local people, so that they don't go out they don't return again. There are many such stories. Finally, I will tell you the story of Mendalekha, where they have achieved the Gram Swaraj, real Gram Swaraj, because it is forest dweller, and then they have reserved, they have encircled the forest land, and whatever produce they get, it is their own property. Nobody can take it, not even the government, and not a single contractor can come to collect anything or cut the thing. I think Mandalaka is a possibility, and there are many such possibilities. Again, in Odisha, Niyamgiri, they could bucket the Vedanta from the, and it was all women Gram Sabha. Now come to Bhubaneswar. Bhubaneswar, what the Nagar Nigam has done, that one they hired one woman who just draws the the fan having the stool of the human beings. And how could he do it? Should do it without any inhibition. So there are many such stories, and I have written about it in my paper. So when it is done, I mean, it is already, I think it is already published, Cambridge Scholar Press, and Professor Joe Chatkulam has sent us the PDF form, and please have a look. And I think I'm still an optimistic, and 22nd century will be the century of women, because they can negotiate. When women get violent, they face violence, they give counter violence. Because I have stayed with two women who are working single-handedly, leaving their children and their husbands in the villages. So I am an optimistic. I don't want to buy that any such structural constraint will prohibit them to march forward. Thank you. Only thing is, sometimes they don't know what are the rules. So it is the role of NGO and benevolent state to take care of them. So this is what I want to tell you.
Yamuna Nagar. Dr. Singh. Then we have Professor Grigori. Okay, now Minati wants to join the conversation. Minati.
Yeah, sorry to disturb again, because I had got my chance, but I did not ask any question. So just now when ma'am was talking about abolishing of the veil, one thing was coming to my mind. So I just wanted to ask, what is the role of dharma in empowering women? Because I will just share a little bit of my childhood days. When I was studying probably 8th standard, I had gone to one satsang. One person was telling, if the women put the veil, and that will increase the ayush, the longevity of the husband. And I was so dare enough to stand and ask how it is possible. And I was subdued by all my guardians, my buas and all. Don't ask anything, sit. When I grew up only, then I came to know. So what do ma'am say? Even one more thing is there. So what do ma'am say about that? Whether we will reinterpret the dharma so that it gives more empowerment to the women, so that about the veil. So I wanted to ask that and share this one. Thank you.
Okay, we'll have some more questions. Susama Panda, Dr. Udayvan Singh, Dr. Sapna Gehlot, Professor Grigori, Dr. Meena, Mr. Castillo, Parul Nishchar, Jannavi Naka. All of you are invited to share your thought, please. Shamanand Chaudhary. Okay, it seems Safira Mir. Okay, everybody. Okay. Now, Professor Vidut Mahanti, please, this question about dharma and women.
Yeah.
Please unmute yourself.
Dharma, you know, it all depends on the rearing of your parents, I must say. For example, I don't observe Sudha Sabbath, nor I mean, I was part of the Manavasa, but still, and that's how I have written Lakshmi the Rebel. It all depends on your, parents' upbringing. If the father says you must behave in certain ways, and if the mother obeys, then then what happens? That the daughter also tries to follow that, but I don't belong to such categories, and there are many such families which also don't believe in. Now, I must tell you, we had Muslim friends, we also had Christian friends. So we thought all the dharmas are equal. Now, but we are from the land of Jagannath. Of course, in practice, Jagataranatha. I mean, he is the Lord of universe. Of course, there are some, cultural rigidities about Jagannath, but that's how Lakshmi could rebel there. Lakshmi went to an untouchable place. You know that. I mean, Chandaluni, she being the goddess of wealth, she went to a Chandaluni place. That's where she was ousted from her temple, and she cast both Jagannath and Balabhadra, and you know the story. It's the my Lakshmi, the rebel. Now, I must tell you what happened, and I don't know really. Today we met one Socha Sati. So they were, they are my sister-in-law and sister, and they've left their children and they're coming out, and their husbands have allowed them. How could they do it? Because they're independent and they're earning some money. And I must tell you one more thing. Kutumbashree, when I was organizing this program in April 2014 ISS, we used to invite many people from Kerala. And Kerala Kutumbashree, many people from Kutumbashree now have contested in Panchayat, and now they are Jila Parishad member, and they have come to our program, and we have given awards to them, and we have lots of documentaries on them. So please have a look at the documentaries, and I don't think dharma is a pabandi. It all depends on your the upbringing. For example, on Guruvar, Thursday, no, yeah, woman would eat fish. But if I am given a fish, I will eat very, very, happily. It all depends how you look at it. Please look at our documentaries. It is
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. now we have Manasi also. Manasi, please share some thoughts from Kerala. You asked a very good question.
Yeah.
How Kerala can learn from Odisha. Some thoughts from you, please, Manasi. Okay, Manasi is taking some time.
I was just making a point that Odisha has offered a better disaster management model, which Kerala can actually incorporate. And Odisha, though it has a comparatively better frame of decentralized setup, it can also learn a lot from Kerala model of decentralization and devolution.
Exactly. Yeah. I just want to pitch in here.
Yes, please. Yes.
Madam, you are mute. Please unmute.
I did.
Yeah, now we can hear.
All right. So actually, you know what happens? both, which Panchayati Raj laws are best. One is Kerala, second one is Karnataka, and third one is West Bengal. They have really devolved the functions and functionaries. And Odisha would learn a lot. Navin Babu tells a lot of things, but it doesn't happen at the ground. So we must learn a lot. Kutumbasri, I was amazed. I visited Kerala many times, and I wrote Kodungulur, something about Kodungulur, that they have a kind of grass which the women only weave. So that was the project. And I was amazed to see how they are working and earning their money, and they are independent. Of course, I should not idealize Kerala women. They have become, empowered, but still their mental setup is, still patriarchal. They want to have a son. Contradictions are there, but Panchayat Raj law is very strong in Kerala, we must say. And so also Karnataka and West Bengal. And Odisha can learn a lot from them. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Which also brings us the question of learning together and mutual learning. That means, we need to learn, but how do we create processes of mutual learning? So that is the challenge. So this is, for example, activists can create processes, NGOs, research institutions, and therefore this is the next challenge before us. And in India, so we have the Union of India, but in reality, our learning with each other is very little. So therefore, what is happening now, for example, in South India, Ekta Parishad, Professor Vidyut Mahanti knows it, and our friends like Rajgopal Bhai, Jil Behan. That's a very interesting process of creating a South India Federation of NGOs. And similarly, the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Mr. Stalin, is talking about creating network among chief ministers. So we also bring it to the people. So therefore, on this Labor Day, as labor is related to love and learning, let us think of creating processes of mutual learning. And our project is in a humble way, is part of that great task before us. So now slowly we are coming to an end. If other friends have some question, please do. And I am sure Minoti would have now Professor Grigori has joined us. We are very happy. So please.
Professor Giri, I'm very happy to be part of this. Though I was not able to hear entirely in between, I had some problem. But as you rightly said, there is a lot of learning that could be done among different states. With regard to Kerala, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, please.
With regard to Kerala, in fact, Kudumbasri is doing a lot of work, and as Professor Mohanty pointed out, it's a kind of a silent revolution that has been taking place. And Kudumbasri has come a long journey, and today it has been made use of for different purposes. In fact, recently it has got the award, Startup Mission Award for Kudumbasri. And they are also involved in Harita Karma Sena, in fact, for waste management, waste disposal and management in each wards of the panchayats. 2 Kudumbasri members are identified and they take the responsibility. Likewise, they are involved in different works. But as pointed out by many people, in fact, we measure the empowerment scale by their political participation. In fact, they were there. I mean, the Kudumbashree members are always in demand for local body elections. If you just go back in 2000, in fact, Kerala came out with legislation to allocate 50% of seats for the women in 2010. And 2010 elections, there were 11,700 Kudumbashree candidates contesting elections. In 2015, it was 13,000, and recently 2020, around 15,000 contested. And in 2010, about 40% won the elections. In 2015, it was 56%. And in 2020, I don't have the real figure, but definitely it is about nearly 60%. So it provides a space for political participation for the Kudumbashree members, but local party elections. But then in the larger politics, you don't see the participation of women. In fact, we have been talking about the 33% reservation for long. But none of the political parties, we have to distinguish between the party politics and the representative politics. When it comes to the question of representative politics, the political parties are vocal in reservation, maybe because of their vote banks. But then when it comes to the party politics in their own organization, we don't see much of participation. If you take the left parties, for example, their percentage in the Politburo women representation is very poor in other areas too. And therefore, I think it's part of a patriarchal mindset, as many pointed out. It is a cultural, factor also. And unless this mindset changes, I don't think, and also you see a lot of atrocities, women atrocities, sexual harassment, and so on. Even in Kerala, day in and day out, you hear these things, in spite of all this empowerment and so on. And therefore, I think we need to go a long way in bringing real change, and we need to learn across boundaries. And I'm sure that more learnings and exchange of views will take us forward. But it's not very, it takes a long, we are in the process. Only that one, we can say only that. And it's a long way to go.
Thank you. Professor Grigori is an anthropologist and he's teaching in Kannur. So very nice. And we also have Dr. Jarnail Singh Anand. Sat Sri Akal, Dr. Anand. Professor Grigori, you can lower your hand. So Dr. Jarnail Singh Anand. Okay. Any other friend would like to make a comment or question? So if not, so slowly we would come towards an end. So it seems, Minoti, you have a poem.
Anantbhai, Dr. Fakir Khan wants to say something. He has raised a hand.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I just want to add here, as Madam Mohanty was replying, giving the example of Jagannath Temple and Devi Lakshmi. Right here, I just want to add, in our culture, basically, women are so society, how it is perceiving, that is different, but it is there in our scriptures, in our literature, that women are the symbol of Shakti, and without Shakti, Shiva becomes a Sava. That means he is dead. So we can recall, as we are discussing about Kerala and Odisha, so Adi Shankaracharya, when he was a disciple of Lord Shiva, and he was not considering Shakti as part of Shiva. When he was tested and when he failed there, then only he realized that without Shakti, there is no existence. So Devi Paradha Kshamapana Stotra, it was written only after that. And Matsama Pataki Nasti, Totsama Papagni Totsama Nahi, evam gyatva Mahadevi jatha yogyam tatha kuru. That was his conclusion. So I can say that yes, our Jagannath temple and Lakshmi Puran has given us the power of gender equality, as well as all those the caste, creed, and religious equality also given by Lord Jagannath and Devi Lakshmi. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And in fact, Shankaracharya has written Saundarya Lahari.
Yes.
So as Professor Mahant is pointing to the women's century and also the whole question of dignity and beauty. So how do we bring dignity, beauty, and dialogue together? Professor Mahanti was referring to negotiation, because in all human situations, we are required to negotiate. And that how do we cultivate an art of negotiation, which is non-violent, persuasive, respectful, and there is a beauty there. The point is that how can we think of the panchayats also as knowledge centers? And for example, Swaminathan Research Foundation, in its work in the villages, in some villages, they have built a knowledge center. And what they are doing, they are teaching, this little bit of local level things and computer. But think of an alternative kind of knowledge center. Well, in Odisha, we have Bhagavata Tungi, and the government is trying to revive it a little bit. Think of how every village would have that kind of a knowledge space, not only Bhagavata, but Saundarya Lahari, but also contemporary stories. Stories like, for example, Wangai Maathai from Kenya, what she has done, the Green Belt movement, story about Greta Thunberg, So therefore, this kind of knowledge, local democracy and knowledge, both local, global, and the classical, because the kind of story that you are referring to, Shiva and Shakti, now most of the time our contemporary young people, we need to bring these stories. So as we are slowly coming to a way to say goodbye before Minati presents a poem and a song of thanks, I wish to present you a poem. And it is called New Stories, Songs of Wings. And it goes like this. We need new stories, even new storytellers, because in a way, a researcher is a storyteller, and that story creates new possibilities for action. The story about Mendhalekha and others, and new myths, magic, and memories, new spaces and dances of imagination, gathering subjugated knowledge as herbs of healing, alchemies of restitution and regeneration, speaking and listening to many voices in a new gathering of past, present, and future, a new spatial and temporal Lokasangraha. In a way, the idea of Lokasangraha also, both Shiva and Shakti, Jagannatha and Lakshmi, and all of us are together, the forest. How does it create a part of a Lokasangraha? A new Vishwaneedam, a new Vishwa Jamaat. Jamaat is the idea of community from Islam, and as we are in the last days of Ramadan, we remember of love, labor, fasting, feasting, and learning. Searching for roots underneath the rocks. Because when Professor Mahant is talking about optimism, it is not an isolated optimism that emerges from searching for roots underneath the rocks. And rocks start singing. Rivers of love and awakening come rushing. New roots and routes, oases in the desert, forgotten and future ways of listening and being born again anew. Listening is very important, and learning and listening together. Keeping the child in us warm with new stories, dancing to the new songs of wings, new gardens of spring. So this is a poem from a book which has just come out, a book of poems called Alphabets of Creation, Taking God to Bed. So slowly we would come to, Minati, now you can please.
Thank you, Anantavai, for giving me this opportunity to read this poem. This is actually from my book, The New Dawn. So today, to give in to the theme, I have chosen the poetry about not about a woman, but it is not exactly about the woman empowerment. It is about the woman's suffering. It is about the last Devadasi of Jagannath temple, Shashimani Devi, when she died. I wrote this. The title of the poem is The Last Journey. So that it goes like this. Oh Devadasi, you are the last Devadasi. Bidding you adieu in the world. Bidding you adieu in this world, smearing sindoor, vermilion, on your wrinkled forehead. As you undertake your last journey in your arthi. There I specifically used one audio, arthi. Hidden in your closed eyes are hundreds of unfulfilled dreams with a still heart. Hidden in your closed eye are hundreds of unfulfilled dreams with a still heart that is full of pain and suffering, drawing the plays of the centuries to a close. Would it be lost forever, your frail earthly body, to the funeral pyre at Sargadwar? Your ashes would be absorbed by Mother Earth, just like she had accepted Sita. Your ashes would be absorbed by Mother Earth, just like she had accepted Sita. With that would be gone the hidden truths and secrets. With that, it would be gone the hidden truths and secrets and bygone decades forever. No one would get to see your mesmerizing dance or hear the songs of your song for Lord Jagannath. Your life, your breaths, your performance were all dedicated to the Lord. But the people around him enjoyed not just your dance and song, also your beauty and body, so shamelessly, exploiting you in the name of God. Those so-called devotees and priests for whom you were an offering, for those so-called devotees and priests for whom you were an offering at the feet of the Lord, would get a chance no more to torture your pious body and soul. Death has liberated your soul and given you the eternal happiness, the happiness of being and the happiness of being with yourself and the happiness of being with the God. Thank you. Thanks everyone for that attention. Thank you.
Ananta.
You are mute, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, please, Professor Vidya.
Ananta.
Yes, please.
Actually, I'll advise Nati to read F.L. Margolin, The Wives of God King. It is about that one. And I have utilized that source material in my Lakshmi Rebel. Wives of God King. So this is what.
Yes, so thank you. So Frederick Margolin is an anthropologist. I have met her. Yes. I've stayed with her in Boston. So I would give you the details, Minati. So now, Minati, you can offer a song of thanks, please.
On the behalf of Vishwaneedam Center for Asian Bluesmen, I, Minati Pradhan, I thank all the dignitaries, all the audience present in our Zoom platform and as well as in the Facebook platform. I thank our panelists, Professor Chattukulam and Professor Vidut Mahanti for their very insightful deliberation and very beautiful presentation. I also thank our moderator, Professor Anant Kumar Giri, for giving us opportunity every week to learn some different things through this beautiful webinars. I also thank all the participants like Manashi, presented the paper from the behalf of Professor Chattakulam, Professor Meera Chakravarti for her beautiful insight, and Professor Gan Luigi for his very deep, insightful thinking as always. And I also thank Professor Dr. Fakir Mahan for his participation. And I also thank Professor Gregory for his statistics about Kerala and other things. What he enlightened us about all these things. So I thank all the participants, on the viewers, and on the Zoom and Facebook platform. Forgive me if I'm forgetting somebody's name. At the last, not the least, I thank our convener, Professor Randir Kumar Gautam, for arranging and executing this. So executing very diligently. So I thank you all.
Thank you, thank you, Minati. I see Swarupa here. Swarupa is co-present. And if possible, we can listen to a little song from Swarupa for a minute. Swarupa, would you like to sing a song?
Good evening, all of you. Good evening, Bhai. Bhai, actually,
Okay. 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 So then Swarupa, you know, sometimes sings quite. So then it is a joy that we could meet together, and then we would meet again next Sunday, 8th of February. So we are thinking about a discussion about this book, Alphabets of Creation. So we would invite you to please do join us. And every Sunday, we have our learning together. So all of you, we most cordially invite you to be with us. Have a lovely Akshaya Tritiya and lovely Ramadan. Assalamu alaikum.